You are 22 years old. You have $47 in your checking account. And your rent is due in 6 days. You're not broke because you're lazy. You're broke because nobody ever showed you the map. And the people who have the map, they're not sharing it for free. This is your life. From 0 to $1 million a year. And it's going to cost you more than you think. You wake up at 6:43 a.m. in a studio apartment in Columbus, Ohio. The ceiling has a water stain the shape of Florida. Your phone screen is cracked on the left corner. You've been meaning to fix it for 4 months. You haven't. Because fixing it costs $89, and $89 right now feels like $890. You work at a logistics company downtown. Entry-level operations coordinator. $40,000 a year before taxes. After taxes, after health insurance, after the $180 you send home to your mom every month, you clear about $2,100. Rent is $975. That leaves $1,125 for everything else. Food, gas, phone bill, laundry, and the quiet, suffocating feeling that this is just it. You eat lunch at your desk most days. A sandwich from home. You watch your coworker Marcus walk back in with a $14 salad from the place across the street, and you do the math in your head without meaning to. You always do the math. You're not jealous of Marcus. You're studying him. There's a difference. And that difference, that small, almost invisible shift in how you see the world, that is the first thing that changes before anything else changes. You start paying attention differently. Not to what people have, but to how they move. How they talk in meetings. What they say, and more importantly, what they never say out loud. You notice that the people moving up in this company don't work harder than everyone else. They work on different things. Visible things. Things that make the right people feel smart for noticing them. So you change what you work on. You volunteer for the project nobody wants. The inventory system overhaul that's been sitting on the operations director's desk for 8 months because it's complicated and tedious, and the upside feels invisible. You take it. You spend 11 nights over 3 weeks rebuilding the tracking spreadsheet, turning it into something clean, something that saves the team about 4 hours every single week. Your director notices. Not with a raise. Not yet. With something smaller but more powerful. He starts saying your name in rooms you're not in. That's how it starts. Not with money. With mention. 6 months pass. You get a title change. Operations analyst. Same desk. Same building. $4,000 raise. You are now making $44,000 a year. You feel the difference, and you don't feel the difference at the same time. The ceiling still has the stain. The phone is still cracked. But something internal has shifted. You've learned the first hidden rule of this system. Visibility creates opportunity. Competence alone does not. You sit with that for a while. You start reading at night. Not self-help. Not motivation. Real things. How supply chains work. How companies measure operational efficiency. How logistics contracts are structured. You're not studying to impress anyone. You're building a language. Because you've noticed something. The people in the upper floors speak a different language than the people on yours. Same company. Different dialect. And you can't get to their floor until you can speak what they speak. A year and a half in, your company loses a mid-level operations manager to a competitor. Internally, they post the role. $67,000. You apply. 3 other people apply. You're the youngest. You're the least experienced on paper. You get it. Not because of the spreadsheet. Not entirely. Because when they asked you in the interview what you would do in the first 90 days, you didn't talk about learning the role. You talked about a specific inefficiency in the Memphis distribution routing that was costing the company roughly $340,000 a year in delayed fulfillment penalties. You had the number. You had the fix. They didn't even know that number existed. You'd found it in month 4. You'd been waiting for the right room to say it in. That is not luck. That is positioning. You are now 24 years old. You are making $67,000 a year. You move out of the studio. You get a one-bedroom in a slightly newer building. You fix the phone screen. You stop doing the mental math every time someone buys lunch. Not because money stopped mattering, but because you stopped operating from scarcity and started operating from margin. Small margin. But margin. And margin changes your thinking in ways that are hard to explain until you've felt both sides of it. The next 18 months are about compression. You are doing the job of someone with 10 years of experience. You know it. Your director knows it. The VP of Operations, a sharp, quiet woman named Diane who schedules calls at 7 a.m. and never apologizes for it, she knows it too. She starts pulling you into conversations that are above your pay grade. Literally. Meetings about vendor contracts worth $4 million. You don't speak much. You listen. You are downloading everything. Diane pulls you aside after one of those meetings. She says something you will remember for the rest of your career. She says the people who make real money in this industry don't run operations. They design them. And then they sell that design to people who need it. Think about that. You think about it for 6 months straight. You turn 26. You've been promoted again. Senior Operations Manager. $94,000 a year. You have a small team now. 4 people report to you. And this is where something psychologically complicated begins to happen. You realize that your success now depends on other people's performance. And other people are unpredictable. Other people have bad days, personal crises, skill gaps, ego problems, communication issues. One of your team members, a guy named Derek who is technically brilliant but interpersonally exhausting, nearly costs you a major client relationship because he sends a blunt email to a vendor that reads more like an accusation than a question. You spend 2 hours on a call cleaning it up. You feel something new that night. Not anger. Not frustration. Something quieter. The loneliness of accountability. Nobody sees the 2-hour call. Nobody sees that you protected Derek's job without him knowing you did it. The client sees a seamless resolution. Your director sees a seamless resolution. Derek goes home not knowing anything happened. This is management. And it is not for everyone. But you stay. Because you understand something now that you couldn't have understood at $40,000. The money isn't just compensation for your skill. It's compensation for what you absorb. The problems. The friction. The invisible weight that sits on your chest at 11 p.m. when your phone buzzes and it's a vendor in a different time zone and you answer it because not answering it costs more than your sleep is worth right now. You are 27. You leave. Not dramatically. Not in anger. You leave because a competitor approaches you with a director-level role. $135,000 base. Equity stake. The ability to build something from scratch. You negotiate. You get $142,000. You counter on the equity. They give you 0.3% of the company. You sign. This is level 3. And level 3 feels different from everything before it in one specific way. At $40,000, you were selling your time. At $94,000, you were selling your judgment. At $142,000, you are selling your identity. Your name. Your relationships. The trust you've built over 5 years with vendors, clients, and freight networks across 6 states. When they hired you, they weren't hiring a skill set. They were hiring your network and your reputation. You understand now that your career is not a ladder. It was never a ladder. It's a series of rooms. And the only way into the next room is to build something in the current room that the people in the next room need. 2 years pass. You are 29. The company grows. Your operational systems are now processing $40 million in annual freight volume. Your team is 11 people. Your comp package, base, bonus, and equity distributions hits $210,000 for the first time. You sit in your car after seeing the number on your W-2 and you feel nothing for about 4 seconds. Then something lands. Not pride exactly. More like quiet recognition. You came from $47 in a checking account. You are a different person now. And the old version of you would not recognize the habits, the thinking, or the priorities of the person sitting in this car. You no longer talk about money the way you used to. You used to talk about it as a destination. Now you see it as a signal. A signal of leverage. Of problem solved. Of trust earned. But here is what nobody tells you about $210,000. It comes with a version of yourself you didn't fully plan for. You are sharper now. More efficient. But also more transactional. You catch yourself calculating the ROI of conversations before they finish. You leave social events early not because you're tired but because you've already extracted whatever value was available in the room. Your college friends still text the group chat. You respond less. Not because you don't care, but because the shared language is slowly disappearing and you don't know how to explain that without sounding like someone you never wanted to become. You are 30. And for the first time in 8 years you hit a wall. Not a career wall. A psychological one. You've been moving so fast, climbing so deliberately, that you never stopped to ask a question that now refuses to leave you alone at 2 a.m. Is this the life you were building toward, or just a life that built itself while you were focused on the numbers? You don't have a clean answer. You sit with the discomfort for 3 months. You start running in the mornings. Not for fitness. For silence. For the 40 minutes where nobody needs anything from you and your phone stays face down on the kitchen counter, and the only thing required of you is to keep moving forward one step at a time. And somewhere in those quiet miles, something resets. You stop trying to answer the big question and start asking a smaller one. Not what do I want my life to mean, but what kind of problem do I actually want to spend the next decade solving? That question leads somewhere real. You are 31. A private equity firm acquires your company. And here is where the game changes completely. Because when P comes in, they don't see your salary. They see the infrastructure you built. They model it. They assign it a value. And they offer you a role to stay on and scale that infrastructure across 3 new markets. Base, $260,000. Performance bonus up to 40%. Equity in the new structure. You take a week. You talk to a financial advisor, a real one, for the first time in your life. He tells you something that reorders everything. He says, at your income level, the biggest risk is not spending. It's not investing. It's the illusion of safety. The people who plateau at $250,000 plateau because they stop building and start protecting. Never stop building. You don't plateau. You are 33. You are now VP of Operations for a logistics infrastructure company operating in 9 states with $180 million in annual volume under management. Your total compensation this year is $390,000. You have a team of 34 people. You have a mortgage on a house in Nashville worth $680,000. You drive a car that costs more than your first 3 years of rent combined. And sometimes, when you're driving that car on an empty highway at 6 a.m. on the way to an early flight, you think about the water stain shaped like Florida. You think about the $89 phone screen you couldn't fix. You think about the math you used to do in your head every time someone bought lunch. And you feel something that doesn't have a clean name. Gratitude mixed with grief. Because something was lost too. You don't talk to Marcus anymore. You don't talk to most of the people from the beginning. Not because anything happened. Just because lives move in different directions at different speeds and eventually the distance becomes too large to maintain without effort either person makes. This is the part they don't put in the success content. The loneliness of outgrowing your original context. The silence in rooms you used to feel comfortable in. The way conversations that used to feel easy now feel like translation exercises. You are the same person. And you are completely different. Both are true simultaneously and neither one cancels the other out. You are 35. An opportunity arrives that doesn't have a clear name yet. A founder you met at a conference 18 months ago calls you. He's building a logistics tech platform, software that does what you've been doing manually for 12 years, automating freight optimization at scale. He wants you as a co-founder. Chief Operating Officer. Reduced salary for the first year, $180,000. But 8% equity in the company. You do the math. If this works, and the market is there, the problem is real, you know, because you've lived inside that problem for over a decade. 8% of a company that reaches a $40 million valuation is $3.2 million. If it reaches $80 million, it's $6.4 million. If it reaches what the market ceiling suggests is possible, the number becomes something you don't say out loud yet because saying it feels irresponsible. You take the risk. Because you finally understand something that took you 13 years to learn. The people who make it to $1 million a year don't get there by climbing. They get there by building something that generates value while they sleep. And the only way to build that is to bet on yourself at the moment when betting on yourself is the most terrifying option available. You are 37. The platform has 340 enterprise clients. You have raised a $22 million Series B. Your equity is being valued in the models at something that makes your palms sweat when you look at it. Your salary has been reset to $320,000. Your annual distributions and bonuses push total comp past $600,000. And for the first time in your life, your money is making money faster than you are making money. Your investments structured carefully, generating returns, your equity appreciating, the machine is running. You are 38 years and 4 months old. The company is acquired. The number you didn't say out loud 2 years ago, you say it now. To your accountant. To your attorney. In a quiet room with a lot of paperwork and very little ceremony. Your personal payout from the acquisition, combined with your existing portfolio and compensation structure, puts your annual effective income for the year above $1 million for the first time. You don't celebrate. Not the way you thought you would when you used to imagine this from that studio apartment. You have a quiet dinner. You call your mom. You don't tell her the exact number because it would scare her more than impress her, and that's okay. You tell her you're doing well. She says she knew you would be. You believe her, and you don't believe her at the same time. What you know now, sitting at the other end of this journey, is that the money was never the real thing. The real thing was who you had to become to get here. The thinking. The patience. The willingness to do invisible work in rooms where nobody was clapping. The ability to absorb pressure without transferring it. The discipline to keep building when protecting felt safer. The courage to bet on yourself when the bet had a real cost. The $47 you started with wasn't a limitation. It was information. It told you exactly what you were working with and exactly how far the gap was. And gaps can be closed. Not by everyone. Not easily. Not without cost. But they can be closed. The system didn't change for you. You learned to move through it differently. And then you changed enough of it to build something new inside of it. Right now, somewhere in Columbus, Ohio, there's a 22-year-old in a studio apartment with a water stain on the ceiling and $47 in their account and rent due in 6 days. They're paying attention. And that's how it starts again.